Shalom. Welcome to Scripture Nuggets with Restorers of Truth. Today's Scripture Nugget is based upon Devarim, or Deuteronomy commonly called, chapter 3, verse 23 to chapter 7, verse 11. In this Torah portion, Scripture Nugget, we'll be looking at Vaetchanan. Vaetchanan is based upon Devarim chapter 3, verse 23, where it says, Moshe besought, or I besought. Another translation would say, I pleaded, or I beseeched Yahuwah. So let's look at exactly what is being done here in chapter 3, beginning at verse 23. Now, for this scripture nugget, we're going to break it down into snippets in this Torah portion to bring out exactly a recurring theme here and some nuggets in which we can, as we study this Torah portion, we can gain insight and understanding of what is actually happening. Now in Devarim chapter 3 verse 23, Moshe said, I besought Vaetchanan Yahuwah at that time, saying, O Adonai Yahuwah, thou hast begun to show your servant your greatness and your mighty hand. For what almighty is there in Shamayim, or in the earth, that can do according to your works and according to your might? I pray thee, let me go over and see the Tov land that is beyond Jordan, the Tov mountain and Lebanon. But Yahuwah was wroth with me for your sakes, and would not hear me. And Yahuwah said unto me, let it suffice thee, speak no more unto me of this matter. Get thee up into the top of Pisgah, and lift up your eyes westward, northward, southward, and eastward, and behold with your eyes. For you shall not go over this Jordan, this Jordan. Now, it's amazing that Moshe is here talking to Yahuwah, pleading with Yahuwah to go over Jordan, or Jordan, to go into the land. In verse 28, he says, but charge Yahushua, talk about Joshua, commonly called, but Yahushua, and encourage him and strengthen him, for he shall go over before this people, and he shall cause them to inherit the land which you shall see. So we abode in the valley over against Beth Peor. Now let's look at another snippet within this Torah reading, and this is Devarim chapter 4, verse 8 through 10. And what nation is there so great that hath statutes and judgment so righteous as all this Torah? One translation would say law, but this is Torah, and it would be translated, if you want to translate it in English, it should say instructions, but it says Torah. Only take heed to yourself and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen, and lest they depart from your heart all the days, of your life. But teach them your sons and your sons' sons. Especially is in italics, but it says, especially the day, Yom, that thou stoodest before Yahuwah your Elohim in Horeb. When Yahuwah said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days, that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children. And notice a pattern here. He's passing something down. It's a cultural thing. Then let's look at Devarim chapter 4, 32 to 36. For ask now of the days, that are past, which were before thee, since the Yom that Elohim created man upon the earth, and ask from the one side of Shamayim unto the other. whether there hath been any such thing as this great thing, or hath been heard like it. Did ever people hear the voice of Elohim, speaking out of the midst of the fire, as thou hast heard and live? Or hath Elohim essayed to go and take him a nation from the midst of another nation, by temptations, by signs, by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahuwah your Elohim did for you in Mizraim, before your eyes? Unto thee it was showed, that thou mightest know that Yahuwah is Elohim. There is none else beside him. Now, what is Yahuwah saying? What does he say? Let's look at this scripture nugget. In the verses and in the chapters that we just covered, Yahuwah is allowing Moshe to beseech and plead. But there's a pattern here. When Yahuwah is responding to Moshe, he's giving Moshe evidence, or he asking or showing Moshe that you need to recall the covenant of Yahuwah. Now let's look at this in order. When you are beseeching Yahuwah, learn to dwell or abide in him. If you look at that first portion that we read, from verse 23 to verse 29 of chapter 3, you'll see it started off with Moshe beseeching, or Vaetchanan, or pleading. It says he besought Yahuwah. But what Yahuwah did, he turned his focus and said, abide here. And then while he was abiding there, then Yahuwah began to tell Moshe, recall the covenant that I have with you and your people. And in the recalling of the covenant of Yahuwah, the third thing was observe his commands. And you're going to see that recurring theme within Vaetchanan, the Torah portion. In Devarim chapter 3, verse 23 to Devarim chapter 7, verse 11. Beseech Yahuwah, but learn to abide in Yahuwah. And in your abiding, recall Yahuwah's covenant. And when you recall Yahuwah's covenant, learn to observe his commands. And when you learn to observe his commands, then shalom will come. And so no matter what happens, you have shalom in Yahuwah. Shalom, shalom. See you next time on Scripture Nuggets.